So our topic today is on how Mary is the perfect model for our generation today, especially the youth. And I listed some virtues here of her, and the first one is purity. Now, Mary stayed pure completely throughout, from the beginning of her Annunciation and to the very end of her life with Joseph. And why is it so hard for us to follow purity these days? Well, because our whole world is contrasting to what Mary wants us to follow, especially by movies, books, and magazines, which is really hard to avoid. So we definitely have to be extremely careful and will always say read, act, or do, so we can try to be like Mary in her example of purity, especially for teens, because they are not brought up with the same standards that Mary grew up with, which was purity. The second virtue I listed here was courage, and Mary definitely showed courage in various ways throughout her life. One of the ways she did was at the Annunciation, where she gave her huge yes to God's divine will, which was a really big responsibility for her because she was going to be pregnant with the Son of God. And Mary had 7 sorrows, and one of them was when she lost Jesus in the temple. That must have been really, really hard for her. She must have thought, oh my gosh, I lost the Son of God. Yet she had courage in God. She also had courage at the Passion, which was really hard for her. And one of the reasons why it's so hard for all of us, especially Catholics, to have courage in God throughout these days is because all the media, the news, and practically the whole world could make fun of us for our faith. But we have to have courage in God, just like Mary did. The last virtue I listed here is humility. And Mary was so humble. Even though she was the Queen of Heaven, she did not want to draw attention to herself. She never sinned in her whole life. She lived very simply. And she always helped other people's in needs instead of spending her time for herself. And that contrasts to us, because all we have, we want it to be convenient for ourselves. We are so self-centered and we sin so much, yet we're too proud to admit that. We really have to use Mary's example of humility to help us grow in the path of holiness.